you're on.
Okay, before he starts, a little bit of a training session. When he starts sharing his screen, you will probably see a little film strip going down the side of your screen, which could block it. If you really don't want to see all the people who are watching the presentation, up at the top, you have a button drop down for View Options. And one of the options under View Options is hide that panel. And then you don't have to see all those people and cover up part of your presentation. The other way is you can click on the little flat line we talk about in our computer classes, the minimize button, and the pictures go to a little black line, and you can drag that around. However, for me, every time I drag it, it always drags to where the next slide has something I want to see. So I prefer just to click the button under View Options and say hide the panel until the presentation's over.
And also, if you do not have a microphone, that is okay. John has graciously agreed to keep an eye on chat, and he will try to interrupt me when appropriate. Likely, we'll probably answer your question, and very, very, very likely, I won't have the answer to your question. So I'm just going to say, I don't know. Let's find out, or I'll look that up later. But please ask your questions. If you don't have a microphone, if you have a microphone, just unmute and ask. But if you can't, use the chat. Okay. So speaking of slideshow, going to share my screen, and I'm going to be jumping around, so I'm sharing my whole screen with you. Today, we're talking about solving your password management problems. I have for years done some of these things. I haven't done it in a long time, that you're probably all doing, using a notepad or reusing the same password over and over again, or getting creative and changing the password up. Maybe even using something like password and just adding numbers or changing letters to numbers. So what I'm planning on covering today is talking about all those little things that we're doing, which quite frankly made my life more difficult with password management until I found a password manager. Now, this password manager I'm going to show today is not the first password manager I've used. It's not the second password manager I've used. It's not even the third password manager I've used. My point to that is, even though I'm showing off one particular solution, it is not a one-size-fits-all. There are things that the other password managers may or may not do that this one doesn't do. They might be free. They might be more expensive. It depends. So I encourage you to explore. I'm going to actually talk about 3 different ones that I'm most familiar with, and then of course give you the option of just go out and play with it. So first, oops, that did not work. There we go. I'll click to move on. First things first, I wanted to kind of talk about what we're going to cover today. So hopefully we cover all these things. Today's agenda is talking about the password problem in general. Common mistakes that people make when they create passwords. I want to show you a list. I think there's 30 on the list. 30 of the worst passwords from 2019. And you might see something you recognize on there. So don't feel bad. It's okay. Some of us are guilty of that. We're going to talk about guessability. I don't know if that's a real word, so I just hyphenated it. What is entropy? We're going to talk about big targets. And actually, there's a pun in there I just didn't even intentionally do, but big targets, reusing old passwords, security versus convenience, and then, of course, I'm going to demo the one password solution that I'm now using. So, what is the password problem? I don't know about you, but I am getting tired of going to a website and them saying, hey, you've got to sign up. Give me your email address. Create a password. Well, who's your firstborn? Why do I need to do that? Well, to keep that portion of that website secure. So I find them annoying. I hate passwords. I wish I didn't have to use them. And there is technology coming that is trying to get away from using passwords. But for now, it's one of the better options that we have. So maybe in a year, this will be a moot problem, but for now, we have to deal with them. So we're going to talk about the ways to easily deal with them. Also, I encourage you not to take the easy way out. It is dangerous. Doing things for convenience and not thinking about security at all can get you in a lot of trouble. That's how some of us have lost money. Oh, send me a gift card. Oh, I've logged into your Gmail. Oh, I've taken over your cell phone. So we're going to talk about those things. There is actually an easy way to do it. It's just not what most people think of using. And the easy way to do it, other than our mind coming up with whatever it comes up with, is using that password manager. So here are some mistakes that people make when they create passwords. Choosing a guessable password, something that is meaningful to you, and maybe even altering a few of the things in that password to say, oh, it'll be secure now. Not a good idea. Reusing your passwords, huge, huge, huge mistake. Please don't do that. Of course, how do you remember them all now is the question that follows that, right? Well, that's where the password manager comes in. And then assuming security requires inconvenience. I can't say always. Most of the time, I am not inconvenienced using a password manager. So I'm not giving up security and I'm not giving up inconvenience. I have both of those things using this tool. So here is a list of the top. There's more than this. There's the list was from Forbes from 2019. I think there was 100 items on the list. These are the top 30. So take a minute. Look at this list. Does it look familiar? Do you see anything on there you may have used? And if the answer to that is yes, then you definitely want to change that password. These are things that they try first if someone cracks into your account. This is what they have a various lists that they use, but this is one of the first things they do, commonly used passwords. John, we've got somebody unmuted, I think. I can't see everybody. Can you?
It was Bob.
Okay, thank you. Good. So if you see anything on this list, please change your password. And then there's the whole guessability factor. So what does that mean exactly? Sometimes we'll take a common word. I just picked the word computer. Computer would be a terrible password. These hackers, as we'll call them, use common words, not even just English words. They'll use French words, Latin words, Italian, all sorts of different words, and try those. So if you're using just a word, not a good idea. So then our mind starts going, well, this is a password I have to remember, and computer is meaningful to me. I'll just go ahead and add a number to it, because who would think that the word computer with a number on it is going to get hacked? Nope. They've already got you figured out. That's the next thing they're going to try. They're going to try various versions of it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 together. Anything that you can come up with, it's already in their database, and it'll be easy to break through it. So then we think, oh, okay, well, so I want to use computer, and I know I have to add a number, and I know if I add a special character, it'll be more secure. So let's try this. That O is now a 0, or a capital O, because mixing case is a good idea. So I'll capitalize the C. I'll go ahead and make the O as 0. And then I'll change the U to parentheses, because it kind of looks like a U to us, right? And then that 7 is supposed to be our T, and the 3 is the E. So I've accomplished my goal here. I made a capital letter, a lowercase letter. I put in special characters. I even have 2 special characters. And because I'm fancy, I put in 2 numbers. This is obviously the best password in the world to use, right? Wrong. It's still easily guessable. It's still something that is in their arsenal in their database that they can use. They know all the substitutions that you're going to think of. Again, we're relying on our brain to come up with these passwords, and therein lies the problem. Here's another fun one: patterns. Anybody recognize that pattern right there? QWERTY. And then there's more letters. If you look across your keyboard right now, anybody sitting in front of a computer, you'll notice that I used all the letters in that top row. Not a good password. It's in their dictionary, it's in their list, it's in their database. Quotes. Oh, I'm going to get real fancy. I'm going to use a quote. Maybe not even a famous quote. This is from Emerson, but maybe I use something that is from an obscure book that 2 people read. Well, guess what? They have that text. They can use that text to hack in and to crack into these passwords. Or maybe I'll use someone super, super famous, like our very own Bob. And since most people don't know him by his first name, I'm going to be fancy and put his first name in. So if I put his whole name in there, no one will guess this. Wrong. There's databases of people. Have you ever done a search for yourself in Google or for somebody else, or tried to do a reverse number lookup to find a name of somebody? Everybody's information, their names, their phone numbers, stuff like that is out there. Not to mention all the hacks and the cracks that have come through on these companies that have lost access to that information. So even though I know Bob, because he's super famous, of course, the computer's going to know it as well. The hackers are going to know it. So these are all bad ideas. And then you say, well, what am I supposed to do? I have to remember this password. It has to be meaningful to me, and I can't do any of this. Well, here's the problem. You're not actually fighting. I mean, you are fighting people, but it's not a person that's going to google.com or gmail.com and saying, okay, I've got their username as this at gmail.com, and this is what I think their password is. Hit enter. It's wrong. They guess 5 times in a row wrong, and Google says, what? I think you're not the right person. I'm going to go ahead and put a time lock on it. You have to wait 5 minutes before you can enter again. You think, okay, 5 minutes goes by. 5 minutes goes by, and then it'll let you do it again, maybe 5 more times. And then it'll lock you out for an hour. Then it'll lock you out for a day. Then it'll lock you out for 30 days. Well, the reality here is, since it's not an actual person inputting that information, it's a machine. And since that information likely came from a database that was stolen, they're in the back end of it. They don't have those same limitations that we do. They can do as many passwords as they want for as long as they want until they crack in. And remember, it is a username and password, so they're doing both of those. It's brute force searches. Brute force attacking is what's happening. So these brute force searches, what they're doing is actually getting better and better with time. I don't know if you noticed, but that computer that you bought 1, 2, 3, 4 years ago is already outdated. Is it not? They keep coming up with better stuff. And because of that, these hackers, or thieves, as I'd probably call them, they get better and better computers, and they probably have a better computer than you do. They might even have a computer like what a business would have. You can't compete with them. And here's the reality. It only takes 5.5 hours, 5.5 hours to crack any 8-character password. Any 8-character password. That's even something that you didn't think of, something distinctive, if they have their username. And if you add 1 character to it, make it 9, it's roughly 20 days. 20 days isn't really a long period of time for somebody that wants to crack into your banking account and make whatever they can off of you. So 5.5 hours for 8 characters, 20 days for 9. If you add another day, it gets another character, it gets even better and even better and even better. So the longer your password, the better. So that's where Entropy comes in. It is your best friend. It uses character sets. So for example, this word protagonist, it changes it up a little again. Instead of making the first character uppercase, it'll make the R, and then it'll throw in just random stuff. If I were to look at that text as a human, and say, what the heck is that? I can kind of glean that they're saying protagonist. It's like when you look in the sky and you look at the clouds and you see animals and all sorts of things in the clouds. As humans, we're very good at seeing shapes and patterns. So this is a character set, a pattern of protagonist. So that's one thing it does. The second part of it is length. So, for example, this isn't a password in the second example. It's a passphrase. We have the word catalog that we want to use. So let's say a website says, oh, thank you for that great password. Now we need to know your mother's maiden name. I guarantee you a hacker could very easily find that information, and probably anybody who knows how to do searching online could probably figure out your mother's maiden name. So why not combine it with other words? So instead of answering those questions of mother's maiden name and giving the right answer, give them a wrong answer, or give them an answer that's combined with other things. Our password manager can actually help us remember this. So I have to admit something to you guys. Don't tell on me, okay? I lie about this information. I don't tell them the truth because it's none of their business. The problem with lying is that you have to remember the lie. So I let the password manager generate the lie for me, and then I also ask the password manager to remember the lie for me. So anytime I go back to the website, I just pull up that information, copy, paste, and I'm off to the races. The other part of entropy is randomness. So a passphrase, password, this is one I actually generated from my password manager, Gala Puppet Designate. So instead of using something like that, the very next one below it is a randomly generated password, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 characters long. I have been in the habit of using at least 12 characters for my password. And by the way, it doesn't actually matter. In most cases, it doesn't matter how long the password is because I'm not remembering it. In some cases, it might, like if you set up an Apple ID, you have a new Apple device and Apple says, hey, sign up for your Apple ID and we'll do all these amazing things. And they are amazing. The problem is I have to sometimes, rarely, but sometimes I have to type that password out. So I can't get crazy and create a 128 character password. Imagine you go into the Apple store, for whatever reason, you're buying a new iPhone, the upgraded model, and they say, oh, great, we need you to turn off Find My iPhone. Go ahead and enter your password. And you look at them and say, I am not going to type 128 random characters of text while you sit here and watch me. So this is an instance where you probably need the password to be short. My rule of thumb is 12. We had 12 disciples. So if 12 is good enough for Jesus, I guess it's going to be good enough for my password, right? It's a random number that I came up with because I looked at that whole 8-character set taking 5.5 hours, 9-character set taking about 20 days. So I added 3 onto it just to be safe. I'm not saying it's not crackable, but it's better than typing 128 or 64, even 32 characters in a password. So entropy combines all this, the character set, the length, and the randomness into one thing to create a good password. Does anyone recognize any one of these companies on this list? And I know I can't see you raising your hand, but I'm sure you've heard of Target or Facebook or the IRS. These are all big targets for hackers. These are all places, Equifax, for example, that all their data was hacked. Now they've got this information on you. So all they have to do is use that information to crack into other accounts. So this is just a very small list of 8 companies, but the list goes on and on and on and on. I can't keep track of all the companies. The news is so frequent anymore that I'm almost tuned out from it. Okay, I get it. Somebody else was hacked. What am I supposed to do? They messed up. It's not my fault. So this is one of the things you can do to avoid for example, I forgot the name of it, Equifax. To avoid Equifax from allowing another account to be hacked, don't reuse the password. Now, some of you may not have a login for Equifax, but let's say you have a login at Target or eBay. If you use the same password on eBay, what's going to happen is that attacker really probably doesn't care about the Equifax data. They can't do much with it. They might be able to steal your identity. But what they're really interested in is getting access to Park National Bank, to PNC, to your Amazon account, to your Gmail account. Well, it's real easy if you reuse that password. So if they figure out the password because they stole it from somewhere else, and now all they have to do is say, just try it at Amazon, Gmail, Huntington, Park National, PayPal, and PNC, and it works in one of those places, guess what? They have access. They are you. Now they can change the password on you. They can change the information. They can transfer money out. They can do whatever they want. Anything that you had access to in that account. Even your cell phone. Let's say you have one of the secondary ways to verify it's you is we'll send a message to your cell phone. There's so many different things that it's like a tree. It just branches out into every single area of your life if you reuse the password. So what's the moral of the story? Use a password manager, something that can do all this for you. And I don't know about you, but I can barely remember what I had for breakfast today. I certainly don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday unless it was the same thing, which it wasn't. So why would I rely on my brain to remember this stuff? I will rely on that tool to remember it for me. Don't reuse your passwords. Don't do all these things. These are the things that the hackers and thieves are depending on you doing so that they can get access to your other information. And you do not have to sacrifice, as I mentioned earlier, security for convenience. Well, I don't care about security. I just want it to be convenient for me. So I'm just going to reuse my passwords. I get it. I've been there. I've done that. It is so frustrating to get to a login screen and say, I don't know what the password is. And even when you do that, sometimes that site requires you to change it. And you said, oh, is it password 123 or is it password 1234? And then you might get locked out of your account. So the password managers can combine both of these things, security and convenience, into one. So I've talked a lot theoretically about what it can do. I'd like to show you how it works. So let me go to, there's a website here, one of the password managers I'm very fond of, LastPass, very good password manager. They have this portion of their website that allows you to generate a secure password. Why would I go here first? Well, if I'm starting to use a password manager and I know that I can't come up with a password on my own, I know I want it to have entropy. I know I want it to have all these fancy things. There's nothing that I can do to make that happen properly. There's going to be a pattern to the password that I choose. So I go here and I decide, how long do I want the password to be? Again, like I said earlier, 12 characters is what I personally use. I know 8 is bad, 9 isn't very good, so I use 12. You can change this. You can go up, you can go down, however many you want. I wouldn't recommend getting crazy with this out of the gate because this password that we're generating right now is a password to allow us into our passwords. This is the one password you have to remember. So you have to be realistic here. If you see something you like, copy it. Okay, so I hit the copy button and then maybe I'll open a text editor and we'll paste that password. Then I'll go back and I'll generate another one. And then maybe I like that one. So I'll copy it, paste it. So you can do this all day long. I actually took a couple days generating random passwords because every time you do it, it's different. And when I found stuff I liked, something that was like this first part kind of looks like lime to me. So maybe I can remember that. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, paste it. So take your time, find a password that looks like it's something you could remember. And you could also even have it somewhere else temporarily. Eventually you want to memorize it. Eventually you don't want to have to rely on a piece of paper or something else. But just keep doing this. It's going to be different every single time. So if you didn't copy it from before, guess what? You're not going to get it again. So once you have your password, now you set up an account. And there's a few ways to do that. So I'm going to do it from the website because I already have an account with Bitwarden. Bitwarden is my password of choice. 1Password is another option. 1Password had a heavy Mac influence in the past, but now it actually is cross-platform. The only thing it doesn't work on is Linux, which is a problem for me. I use Windows, I use a Mac, I use Linux. LastPass doesn't work on Linux. Again, that's a problem for me. So you can probably see why I chose Bitwarden. I had limited options, so I chose the best of those limited options. And I will tell you, Bitwarden is one of the top ranked password managers according to Consumer Reports. I'm thinking it was ranked at number 2, but don't quote me on that. So obviously I made a good choice. So here at the top of the screen, we see this create account. It's going to ask for a password. Now I got crazy and I created a fancy email for them. But you just use whatever email you have. So let's say I wanted to do my, oops, I didn't spell your email correctly. That's very important. So I'll use my Computer Society email. And then it says I need a master password. So this is where I go back to my list and I say, which one of these do I like? Well, let's say I chose this one. Because while it looked like lime before, that looks kind of, you guys can't see that very well, I'm sorry. While it looked like lime before, it kind of looks weird now. So I'm not so sure I can remember this one, but this looks like it might be easier. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And then I'm going to paste it in. It says it's strong. Why is it strong? Because of entropy. Because of all the things I told you to do that the password manager, it did it for me. So I'll paste the password in again. Remember, this is the 1Password that you've got to remember. And then I'll click submit. Now I'm not going to do this because this is being recorded. So anybody could very easily log into this password manager account and do all sorts of stuff. But at this point, you would click submit and then you need to verify your account. Each password manager has a different way of doing it. The common thing is this, the master password. So I've created my account. Now I download the app. Many different ways to do that. So if we go to bitwarden.com, actually it's right on the main page. There's an install now. It's free. When you click this button here, it'll move you down to 2 different sections. And this is what I wanted to point out. There are multiple ways to use a password manager. I have a preference, but it doesn't matter what my preference is. You need to find your own path. You will probably install both of them. I guarantee you 99% of you will install both of them. The first one is installing it on your computer or your desktop. Here's the Windows install, Mac, and Linux. You click the appropriate link and you're off to the races. By the way, anybody, I know we have a few Linux people on there on the call. There is another way I install this. I don't use an app image. So chat with me later if you're interested in installing Bitwarden, or John Kennedy actually uses this as well. He can show you how he does it. Now, it's my preference. I just don't like app images, so I go a different path. So that's step 1. Install it on your computer. Step 2 is you're in your browser. Right now I'm using Firefox, as it says up here. So I would click this link, Firefox. And what it does, I got to move things out of the way. You guys are blocking my view here. So I click this, it does its thing. I follow the prompts just like you would anything that you install. And it puts this little icon up here. This is my Bitwarden icon. 1Password, LastPass, they do the same thing. When you click it for the first time, it asks you to sign in. Now, I've already signed in. Okay? So I don't need to actually sign in this right now because I've already done it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for maybe a certain login that I needed. Maybe I have multiple logins. Let me show you an example of that. So if I go to gmail.com, probably need to log out first. Google has many logins for me. No, it's in my way again. Let me move stuff out of the way. So if I sign out, when I go to gmail.com, it'll typically ask me for a username and password. So here's the username. I don't even have to remember the username in most cases. I just go to this Bitwarden login right here. Sorry, I'm moving this button all around. John said this would happen. So I find the right Google login that I need, and I just click it. And that's all I did was click. I didn't type that. So I click next. And again, I didn't click anything. Sometimes I might need to come up here and do it one more time. Just for safety, I'm going to do it. But you can see it's automatically filled in. I'll click it again, click next, and I'm in. Well, almost. Wants me to confirm my information. Okay, yes, leave me alone. Now I'm in. It's that easy. I just click a button to log in. And I let Bitwarden do the work for me. Okay? So that's how you do it from a web browser for something that's already there. Let's say I want to look up a password. Maybe it's not in a web browser. Maybe it's on a phone, my smartphone or my tablet. That's where I can utilize the app. So when I launch the app for the first time, remember I've already downloaded it. I have to enter my master password. And it presents me with everything that I need. So, again, moving stuff around. I know you guys can't see it, but so right here at the top is all items. This is everything. If you put in a login item, if you put in a credit card, if you put in identity information such as a passport ID and information or driver's license or social security number, things like that. If you're managing accounts for other people in your family and you have to know this information, that's where identity comes in. You can also put notes in here, and I've done this. So inside of the notes, I might want to mark down the Wi-Fi password for a friend's house. It's certainly not something I want to expose in a regular note. If you use the Notes app on your smart device, your phone or your tablet, it's probably not secured. So I prefer to keep it here in secure notes. I can even tag items. So out of all of this, here's all the tags I've created. And these tags are meaningful to me. These were not created automatically. I created them. These are meaningful to you. So this is stuff with the Columbus Computer Society. This is stuff with the Computer Society in Newark. These are email accounts. I just wanted to tag them. It's a great way to quickly find things. Here's a great example. These are all the things inside my house here in Pataskala that I might log into. These are all the things here inside of my father's house that I would log into. And these are all the things in my brother's house. Because guess what? I'm the IT guy now for my entire family. And God help me if I had to remember what their AT&T gateway login is. No, thank you. So I just write it down and I tag it because I don't need to see it everywhere. I just need to make sure that it's available when I click this. The RE just stands for Reynoldsburg. This stands for Pataskala. That stands for Columbus. So these are, again, tags that are meaningful to me. So I can find what I want, go into that item. I can see the admin username, that's easy to remember. So I'm just going to copy this. And then I paste it into whatever I'm trying to use. So this is the app versus using it in the browser. Anything you do in the browser, I will tell you, I find it easier to just use the plugin in the browser. But for everything else, I use the app. So let's create a login. So I'm back at all items. And at the bottom here, I have a plus button. This is just adding a new item to my passwords. So for this example, we're going to play a little make-believe here. Let's say I'm setting up an Apple ID. Okay. And on the website, they wanted me to give a username. So I'll use that same email from before. And it wants me to generate a password. Instead of typing random text like I just did, that's easily guessable. Instead, I'm going to click this button right here. These arrows will generate that password using entropy so that I don't have to guess at something. It's going to be a good password. Right off the bat, it gives you an option. Now, that may or may not be okay for you. I can regenerate it here. I can keep regenerating as much as I want. But I want you guys to look at options. I told you earlier that 12 was the minimum I use. That's what I'm personally comfortable with. However, on websites, I always have the password manager on my phone. I always have the password manager on my computer. There's not a Gmail store somewhere that I can walk into where they're going to make me type my password manually. I've never run into an instance where I needed to type this password manually. Then I pick a much larger number. You can get crazy. This little scroll bar takes you through. You can go to 128. Nothing wrong with 128. It'll probably take a couple thousand years for your account to get hacked. Well, maybe not next year when we have the next supercomputer. But be careful with this, because some websites, especially banks, Juanita can attest to this. We had a heck of a time trying to get a password set for one of her banking accounts. And it was because they said, oh, you can't put in more than, get this, 16 characters. What? 16? You have to follow the rules of the website. So while you might want to do 128, you have to make sure that the website will take that many passwords. I've been in the habit of doing more, such as, I'll just say, I'm not going to give you the right number because then somebody will know a little bit of the tricks on how I'm creating my passwords. So let's say I choose 39 characters. This is a 39 character password randomly generated that contains uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols, all 4 of these things. Here's the other trip up. I've been on websites where they say you can't use this symbol right here, maybe the dollar sign or the asterisk. So sometimes I have to uncheck don't use symbols. And then I might go in and manually adjust the password and add a symbol. But this, you have to know where these options are, because sometimes these websites just don't let you do what you want them to do. So here's all my options. I'm going to leave them checked. Here's another set of options. What's the minimum number of numbers that you want? I typically don't mess with this. I actually had it on a different number before, but you can. It just means that I'm going to have at least this many of this thing. So for characters, I'm going to have at least 3 special characters. You just adjust it and avoid, you adjust it to meet your needs. So the last item here, it avoids characters such as O or 0 as much as it can. So it'll do a lowercase o, but it might not do an uppercase O, because that could be looked at as a 0. So this right here is telling the password manager, whatever you do, don't do those characters that can look like one thing but mean another. So I always keep this checked. So you can see here's a little O. Oh, well, it changed because I clicked it. There was a little O in there, but I can tell that's an O because a 0 is never small like that next to a character. So once you're happy with your password, you click the plus sign. I do one extra thing. I copy the password. I don't know why I do this. I think it's because I don't trust it yet. But if you click the plus sign, it fills in that password for you right here. So this was however many characters I picked with all that information in it. And then it tells you to fill in the rest of the form. So I happen to know that the website is appleid.apple.com. But let's say that I needed a second URL. Maybe I don't go to just this. Maybe I go to iCloud.com. So you can add in with this button right here as many links to web pages as you want, as many URLs as you want. In this case, I have 2. There's probably a third one. Apple.com may have its own login, maybe support.apple.com. These are things that you might learn as you go along, and you can always edit this and add in more URLs so that you can just have it autofill. You might come on the website and it says, I don't have a login for this, and you know you do. That's an instance where you have to add that specific web address. Then down here is where I specify the folders. Now, I can't create a folder from here. I have to create a folder over here. But this folder is just a tag. So this happens to be something related to home. So I'll probably put it under this. The other thing I can check is whether it's a favorite or not. So I'll check this button, and what happens is, don't check this too often. If you have hundreds of logins and everything's a favorite, well, you're defeating the purpose of having a favorite. But what I want is a short list of items I use regularly over here in my favorites. That's all that does. And I keep notes. So I've used this section for times when I change my password. This has happened more than once. I'll go in a website, just happened yesterday. T-Mobile says, hey, your password's looking stale. We need you to update it. So the first thing I do is copy the password, and I type old password. I put in the date, and then I paste the password in. For my sanity, I do this. You can use notes for whatever you want. It's a free for all here. You can type anything. Notes to yourself. You can type something that might help you find it. Apple related stuff. This is a searchable field, so it can help you find things. And then you get into the craziness of creating your own custom fields, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So we've filled in all the forms. We've named it. And actually, just for my sanity, since I know this is not correct, I'm going to add delete me. And that should put it at the beginning of the list. I've typed in my username, my password I generated. I've typed in the URL, created it as a favorite, added it to a folder, typed in some notes, and then I save it. So this is now in my password manager. I did it on my computer, but it is now going to sync with my tablet, my phone, my Windows computer, my Linux computer, the Mac, everywhere, anywhere I go, the website, this will show up. So when I need to use it, I can either use the app itself here, or I can again go to the Bitwarden icon. I'm going to stop for just a second because I can see that there's probably some chats in there. Did you guys have any questions so far? Anybody fallen asleep yet? Juanita has a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Juanita.
Can you hear me?
Ira, go ahead. I can hear you.
Yeah. I've got LastPass. I like LastPass, but I never knew it had all that in it because I hadn't opened it up for probably a year, and I had my old passwords in there, and I never opened it up. The other day I opened it up because I wanted to know how, and it just said I had to update my LastPass. So when I did that, I got the screen you got. I was totally lost.
When you updated your LastPass?
On my LastPass, yes. And I could get into it, but I had to get a hold of Ken. Ken never messed with it, and I didn't know whether John had it or not. I know John's got something else, but you have it. So I need to get with you sometime on TeamViewer and slowly show me how to generate these things and do it right. Because I remember a long time ago, I tried to generate a 25-word password when I first had LastPass, and I've had it for 6-7 years. It wouldn't let me. About the most I could generate was like you, 16. 16 was the most I could pull out of it. And I thought, my gosh, okay. But I need help. No
problem. So I don't use LastPass, but I have used LastPass.
You just showed me you could do it.
I do it in Bitwarden, but I know I can figure it out. So
Okay.
give me until, well, mid next week. We can start talking.
Okay. Just give me, you got my email address or you got my, you have my phone number. You got my phone number too, I think.
I don't think I do. John or Ken's not on. John, if
John
you
has-
could send that to me whenever. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cause I need, I really need to, well, man, this is enlightening for me.
Well,
I
good.
mean, I really enjoyed this.
Good.
So I don't
Juanita?
know about anybody else, but this is what I need.
Okay,
Okay,
Ira, but
thank
Ira, make sure you know that he's not doing it on LastPass today. He's doing it all on Bitwarden.
Yes, I know that. I know that, John. Oh, he's doing it on Bitwarden. So LastPass would be just a little bit different.
Yep. Just a little
Probably.
bit.
Okay. Okay.
But it's a great
Well-
app. So I don't suggest you switch unless you find a need. I'm curious how you're using on Linux, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, yeah. Well, it just when I first started up, I've always had Linux. You know, when
Yeah,
the first
it's web app. He's using the web
the
app.
web app.
That makes sense.
Okay. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Okay. Juanita, you had a question?
I did. Thank you very much. You've done an excellent job.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Don't leave.
Well, so far you've done an excellent job. And I have a question, and mine is that if I have an old account, say for years, 5 years ago, like a Blair account, and it's still like the original password that I put in it, can I go into my, which I have LastPass account, and generate a new password for my Blair account in LastPass and save it? That will be my like 16 character password for Blair, and they will let me in my Blair account.
Okay,
Is that
so
a true
hold
statement?
on. I know where you're heading with this, but the way you're saying it is not quite accurate.
Okay.
So I want to clarify. If you go in the LastPass and you change the password, Blair has no idea that you changed the password.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what I would do. That note section, I'd put a note. Here's my old password.
Okay.
I'd go ahead and generate the new password in LastPass,
Okay.
log in with the old password, and then inside the account itself,
Okay.
you need to change the password.
And I can copy and paste that to the Blair account.
99% of the time, yes, but not 100% of the time, yes.
Okay. Well, I'll try it with Blair because, I don't care about Blair. But, if I was to do it for my IRA account, I would be devastated if I couldn't get into it.
Understandable. I play it safe by copying that old password every single time.
Okay.
Does-
Yes.
that
and
answer
I know
your
how
question?
To do that. Yes, it did. Yes. I'll
Okay.
try it.
Bob and Mary Frances, I think, had something too. So Bob first.
In LastPass, when you go in to change a password, you, under the editing portion, you have it where it displays it without giving you those little symbols that represent the numbers. Because you have one of two ways. You can hide the password or you can allow that password to show. Make sure it's in the show mode and then copy that password. And then you'll be able to enter it into your Blair account for the old one, change it to whatever you want in the new one, and then LastPass will automatically ask you if you want to change it to that new one. Okay, so you only have to enter that once, and that's at Blair. And then when you go to sign in Blair, LastPass will ask you, do you want to change your password? Because it didn't know that you have changed it. Since you're now entering something else, LastPass will say, do you want to change it? Answer will be yes, and you'll have that new password in LastPass that matches the new one you set up at Blair.
Thank you, Bob. Bob knows
Do I
more about
first-
LastPass than I do.
Bob, do I do it first to Blair and then go to LastPass and tell them yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but you want to make sure that you first sign into Blair with the old password.
Old password.
And
okay.
then from there, you'll be able to change it to the new one. And once you've changed in the new one, then I would sign out of Blair and sign in again. And at that point, since you're signing in with a new password, LastPass will automatically ask you if you want to change it. Your answer will be yes. And from then on, it'll automatically fill in the right information.
Okay. Thank you.
John has a comment.
Yeah, I'd like to support your idea of doing the notes with copying the old one and saving it there, because there's always a chance that you go to the website to change a password and it doesn't change. You think it's changed, and then you're trying to get back in and you're going, oh, this new password's not working right. Oh, I don't know what my old password was. But in your idea of keeping a note, I can go back and say, let me try the old password. And then you find out, it still works because it actually didn't get changed. So that's kind of a good idea to, save that old password until you're 200% sure that it's going to work.
Just a note, since we've only got a couple more minutes, 4 minutes remaining, I only have 2 more things to show you, so we'll be done, folks. And Mary Frances, I think, had a question. Check out the chat, copy and save the chat, because I just put in a bunch of links for Bitwarden. And of course, I had to put in our club's address as well, because we've got to promote our club. But go in there and copy those notes. Those are all ways I've learned about Password Manager, Bitwarden. I don't have the one specific to 1Password or LastPass, but they'll be very similar. So make sure you grab that. Most of you can hover over chat, and well, you have to open up chat first. So at the bottom of your screen, for those on a computer, there's a chat button. If you click that, a box will pop up for chat. And then you should see at the bottom on the right side, there's a ... That is where you should be able to save the chat. I enabled this after the meeting started, so I hope it's set for this meeting. If not, let me know when we're done here in 2 minutes, and then I'll go ahead and get it to you a different way. Mary Frances, did you have a question?
The copy is enabled. Or the
Copy is enabled?
Save is enabled.
Okay, good.
We need to have that confirmed by a non-co-host, because co-hosts always have that. So we need somebody who's not a co-host to confirm that this save is available.
Am I unmuted? This is
You're
Mary
good.
Frances.
No, you're not, Mary Frances. You're not unmuted.
Kenneth Tuba, why don't you go ahead and finish, and then I will hold my question until after that if there's time.
Okay. So let me finish real quick. The last thing I wanted to show you is what I didn't get to show the Columbus group. First of all, I have a list of the resources. Sorry, I'm not going to go into full screen mode. I have a list of the resources here as well that I can send you this whole presentation if you want. The presentation doesn't have much content, but we can put it somewhere, maybe on the website or email it out. The last thing I wanted to show you was passphrases, because like I said earlier, this Apple ID is going to ask me, what's your mother's maiden name? What's your firstborn? Whatever. This is where custom fields come in. Did I share my screen? Yes, I did. Okay. So under custom fields, we have an option of choosing text, hidden, or Boolean. So I'm going to choose, I'm going to choose hidden, because I want to show you what it looks like. Text, everything is displayed out in the open like this, but I want part of it to be hidden. So I click this new custom field, and it wants a name. Security question number 1, okay? And then I need to put in a value. I'm not going to do that yet because it's asking another security question. Security question number 2. And then lo and behold, there's a third one. So I'm going to put in, oh, actually, I do want to put this value in. Hold on. Backtrack. Security answer is what I want. So let me delete these. Do it one at a time. New hidden. New text is security question. when you feel like you're rushing, you tend to forget things, right? So security question is mother's maiden name, right? And then the hidden field is the answer number 1. So in this value here, I'm going to go ahead and generate up at the top here. I can generate somewhere, password generator. I can generate a passphrase. That's under options. Right here is all we used was password, but I want passphrase. So it's asking me, what's your mother's maiden name? Now, I might be limited to only putting in 3 words, but I'm going to try to do 4. So I'm going to generate a random passphrase. This is now my mother's maiden name, okay? Pre-order matching onboard marathon travesty. Who the heck is going to guess that? These are randomly ordered words. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and use it for my answer. And then remember, I'm lying. I don't have to remember the lie because the password manager, oops, I clicked something. The password manager remembers it for me. So there's the lie. That is another thing I use my password manager for. Security questions. Don't pick the right answer. It makes your account easy to hack. And that's the last 2 things I wanted to tell you about. So Mary Frances, the spotlight is now on you. Literally, it's on you. That's what I can see.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
My question is so small. I want you to know that I have never dealt with Password Manager. Everything you told us today is brand new in my pea-brain, and I'm in overload. At one point, you were talking to us about, making sure the website allows how many letters or how many characters or how many symbols. And then you told us maybe you were going to ask for 128, and then you found out that the site only allowed you 16 questions. And at this point, I went into overload and I said to my brain, but how do I stop in the middle of my transaction and go to the website and find out what they do allow?
That is a great question that I completely forgot to address. So let me show you. I'll share my screen again. The way I know when a password is limited, I'm blanking out. I'm just trying to find a website I've never been to. So let's go to Tesla.com. I don't have an account with them, so I'm going to go ahead and create an account. And it's just a random website. So let's say I generated that secure 32 or 128 character password. We'll just use this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And I'm going to paste it in. Now, what I do to be super safe is I'll delete from the back and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, I miscounted. There's supposed to only be 39. So I'll try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 50, 60, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 39. So it took all 39 characters. I'm good with that password. If I'm not, I need to edit this, generate a new password, and then change my options. So let's say it said, your password can't be over 16 characters. Okay, well, that's not good, but I have to follow your rules. So I follow their rules, changing it here. I'm going to, again, copy the password just because I always do that. Click select and save. Here's my new password. Try it. And if it doesn't gripe and moan, I know I'm good. I still check it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We're good. So if I were to go ahead and sign in, and it, again, gripes and complains, hey, you can't use special characters. Hey, you can't use that. I just keep changing it until it meets their needs. So really, really good question, Mary Frances. I forgot to mention it.
Okay, one step that you could have done to show us, there was a create an account on that same page,
Oh,
and it might have said, here is the requirements and limitations.
you're right.
Oh, okay.
Here's create account. And here's something. Minimum of 8 characters, must have at least one number and one letter. So I don't know what Tesla does, but this will be fun. Let's generate a really, really long password. Let's do the 128. Okay. Copy. Save. Let's see what it says. So it's not complaining yet, but that's not necessarily, that's not saying that it's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would count down, and then if it had 128 characters, that's probably too long. If it had 128 characters in it, the next stopping point would be the website saying, hey, that's too big. I don't like this. I don't like that. To which I go back and I just make it fit into their world. Does that answer the question for you?
That helps for starters. I have, it looks to me like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. I have about 12 questions I would ask at another help desk or SIG or something.
Well, you can hang on. If people don't want to listen to them, they can leave after the meeting's over.
Oh, no, exactly. You're not going to hear them now.
They might be good questions. I'm actually going to try it.
They're very newbie questions, not for experienced people.
So it does take 32 characters. Let's go ahead and create a Tesla account because, why not? I'll probably never own one, but it'll be nice for them to remind me about all the things I'm not going to have. Create account. Okay, so far it's not complaining. I'm good. So it worked. That was best case scenario. And since I did that, we're going to change this to Tesla login. And then I used this email. Oops. And that's not the website. It's tesla.com. And then this is all invalid, so I'm just deleting all the extra junk. There we go. So it worked. I was hoping that it wouldn't work, but that's what happens in a demo. You don't always get what you want.
Now you can expect to get lots of ads for Tesla on your computer.
Indeed. Mike, did you have a question? I saw your hand up. You'll have to unmute if you do.
Right. How do you sync with other devices? I've got 2 or 3 computers that I use at various times, plus an iPad and an iPhone. So what's the procedure for syncing with the other devices?
Super easy. When you set up your account with Bitwarden, and I'm only speaking for Bitwarden, you give them your email address and then you provide that master password. That is your synchronization key right there. When you log in with that same email address and password, master password, it'll automatically sync in. And every time you log out and log back in, it resyncs. So it syncs on those logins and logouts. Okay,
so all of this information resides on Bitwarden's website or the cloud?
It does, correct.
Okay, got it.
I want to side note that, though. You can host your own on some of these services. One of the links that I provided, I believe, talks about, on-premises hosting. So if you want to do it and you want to be super secure and make sure that password's not out on Bitwarden servers, you can do it yourself. It's not as convenient, and I will tell you, LastPass has been hacked, Bitwarden was hacked, and probably some of the others. However, what did they get? They got random gibberish that meant nothing to them. It was useless information. So they couldn't tell what the usernames were. They couldn't tell what the passwords were. They couldn't tell anything inside those files because they were encrypted. So LastPass and Bitwarden did it right. They'd have to somehow, all that mixed data, unencrypt it to make it useful. So if you're worried about that, you can host it. But I don't know how to do that, and that would probably be an advanced class that I will not be teaching.
And can you use that with two separate emails?
You can, if you want two different accounts. Do you have like a husband, wife situation, or is that what you're thinking?
I just have two. I have a Gmail account and I have a Windstream account.
Okay, I would not create two accounts. I would just pick an email address. Pick the one you prefer.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions? These are good questions.
That was good, Kenneth, because the two emails will not sync. It is the email that you create your account that you put on each device, whether it's my phone, because that has Bitwarden on it, or whatever. It's when you log in. I just now on this, I've got a external hard drive that runs Windows, and didn't have it in it. So when I installed it, logged in, all my stuff came in. However, because I've got the web app, I already had Bitwarden running for all my passwords, but I didn't have the client on there. But it was putting the name in, and boom, then it's synced up and linked.
A side note on syncing, I've noticed where I'd create something in the app and then I'd jump to the website and try to fill it in, and it would say wrong password. I eventually figured out that the what do you call it, John? The add-in, the extension in the web browser was already open. Therefore, it wasn't looking for changes. So I had to force it to sync. You could log out of the extension and then log back in and it'll sync. So if you ever have that weirdness of wrong password, just keep in the back of your head, and I don't know why Bitwarden has this issue because I didn't have this issue with others. You have to force it to sync if you're already in it. So get out of it, get back into it, and it'll sync. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do have one question for you.
Yes, Greg.
Another one. Dashlane. Did you ever try Dashlane?
Yes, I did. You're muted again. I can't hear you. Here, let me try.
Also didn't have my mic out where you could probably.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Dashlane. Do you have any real comments on it?
No, I wasn't a big fan of the user interface. I don't remember why, because it's been probably a couple years since I used it, but I know it's really good. John, does Dashlane not run on Linux? Maybe that was the reason why I didn't use it.
I never looked at it.
Let me look.
Reason is I am using it this year, but it costs money, and I'm not real happy with that.
Well, there was the answer right there. That's why I didn't look at it.
Yeah. It probably for me was that it didn't run on Linux and I need it to run on everything. Okay. I should show you guys this for those that are still on. Talking about pricing. Let me share my screen real quick. So this is Dashlane's website, and I can't quite tell if it supports Windows, so I have to look into it. But there was one of these was pricing. Let me get back to it. These are all the articles. Okay, so at the bottom here, here's what I really love about Bitwarden. It's open source. The code is freely available to anybody to look at it, to fix it, to find vulnerabilities. That's the good thing about being open source versus LastPass. It's closed off. We don't know if they're doing what they're doing unless they audit it or have an external team audit it for us. Bitwarden is free. It's free forever. However, you can break the bank and pay $10 for the whole year and get more features. I initially used the free account, but then I switched to the paid account because there was a few things I wanted to do. I thought the features were missing, and I found out they were premium features. So I gave him $10. Excuse me, and I'm going to give him $10 next year, and I'm going to give him $10 the following year. The opposite of that, oops, that didn't work. Try that again. LastPass, you can use it for free up to a point, but it was more limited and it was more expensive. So $3 a month, that is $36 a year. So it's more than 3 times the cost of Bitwarden. I'm not saying it's not worth it. LastPass does some amazing things. It, again, wasn't the right size shoe for me, so I picked something else. There's even a family account option, which, okay, so there's this this option inside of LastPass that deals with end of life and how you can gain access to their account. Bitwarden doesn't have it yet. They're working on it. LastPass already has it. So that might be the one thing that you say, I have to have that, and you go ahead and pay the whatever, $36 a year to get LastPass. Look for those features inside of Dashlane, because I just don't remember why I didn't pick it. There was a reason. Any other questions? You already got me adding stuff to my presentation. Now it's going to be longer.
And in August, you have a time limit.
50 minutes, yes. Okay. If you're trying to ask a question, you are muted. So I'll give you another 30 seconds here and we'll call it a day. Or rather an afternoon. It's almost evening now.
Just a comment.
Yes, Mike.
I just had a National Weather Service report that there's severe thunderstorms for our area until 11 o'clock this evening.
Oh. Thank you very much, Kenneth. Was good presentation again.
Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it.
I have a completely different question about a problem I have with making a PDF from my printer. So maybe you could call next week. We could talk about it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In case you guys don't want the rain, I'd be happy to accept it.
No, I'm first in line. I'm first.
And Mike, where is that rain coming from? Where's that storm coming from? What
I haven't
counties?
looked at the weather map. I'll do that.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's coming from the northwest.
Probably, but is it going to stay north of Licking County?
Nope, I think it's supposed to come through.
Oh, grab the chat while you can. Grab the chat while you can.
Is everybody properly thanked? You guys and gals are great.
Yeah, thank you for being here today. It's not much of a presentation without an audience. Okay, I'm calling it in 30 seconds. The countdown starts now. Ask now or forever hold your peace until next month.
John's right. It's coming from the northwest.
Thanks for the warning.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead. I won't end it yet. Everett, you can stop the recording if you want.
Okay, it's stopping now.
Okay.
I pulled down the chat and